Hello, my friends. Welcome back to SpeakSmart Stories. Today, we are going to travel back more than 2,000 years into history. Let me ask you a question. What kind of woman could rule a powerful kingdom, speak many languages, and win the attention of the most powerful men in the world? The woman we are talking about today is one of the most famous queens in history. Her name was Cleopatra. Her life was full of intelligence, power, danger, and dramatic decisions. But before she became the legendary queen we know today, she was just a young girl growing up in one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Cleopatra was born in 69 BC in the beautiful city of Alexandria in Egypt. Alexandria was not an ordinary city. It was one of the most important centers of knowledge and culture in the ancient world. Scholars, scientists, and philosophers came from many countries to study there. At the center of this intellectual world stood the famous Library of Alexandria, a place filled with thousands of scrolls and books containing knowledge from across the world. Growing up in this environment had a deep impact on Cleopatra. Unlike many rulers, she loved learning. She studied languages, philosophy, mathematics, and science. Cleopatra was incredibly intelligent. She could speak many languages fluently. Greek was her native language, but she also learned Egyptian, which was unusual for the royal family. Most rulers in her dynasty never even bothered to learn the language of the Egyptian people. But Cleopatra believed something important. If she wanted the people of Egypt to respect her, she needed to understand them. She needed to speak their language. Her father was Ptolemy the Auletes, the ruler of Egypt at that time. Although he was the king of Egypt, his family originally came from Greece. For nearly 300 years, this Greek dynasty had ruled Egypt. But the royal family was full of conflict. Power struggles were common. Brothers fought brothers. Sisters betrayed sisters. Everyone wanted the throne. When Cleopatra was only 18 years old, her father died. Suddenly, she became queen. But she could not rule alone. According to tradition, she had to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII Theos Philopator, who was only 10 years old. At first, Cleopatra tried to control the government herself. She was confident, intelligent, and ambitious, but her brother's advisors did not like this at all. They believed a young boy king would be easier to control than a powerful queen. Slowly, they began turning the kingdom against Cleopatra. Political tension grew inside the palace. Soon, Cleopatra found herself surrounded by enemies. Finally, after several years of conflict, Cleopatra was forced to flee Egypt. Imagine that moment. A young queen, only 21 years old, suddenly losing her kingdom. Most people in her situation would have given up. But Cleopatra was not the kind of person who accepted defeat. Instead of surrendering, she began building a plan. She traveled to Syria. There, she started gathering supporters and soldiers. Her goal was simple, but incredibly dangerous. She wanted to return to Egypt and reclaim her throne. While Cleopatra was preparing her comeback, something important was happening in the Roman world. A powerful Roman general named Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt. Caesar was one of the most powerful men in the world. He had just defeated his rival Pompey in a civil war. Pompey had fled to Egypt hoping to find protection. But the Egyptian rulers made a terrible mistake. They killed Pompey, thinking this would please Caesar. Instead, Caesar was shocked and angry. Soon he took control of the royal palace in Alexandria. When Cleopatra heard that Caesar was in Egypt, she realized something important. This could be her chance. If she could meet Caesar and gain his support, she might win back her throne. But there was a serious problem. Her enemies controlled the city. If Cleopatra entered Alexandria openly, she would almost certainly be killed. So she came up with one of the most daring plans in history. One night, a small boat arrived quietly at the royal palace. A servant carried a large rolled carpet into Caesar's room as a gift. When the carpet was unrolled in front of Caesar, something incredible happened. Out stepped Cleopatra herself. She had secretly hidden inside the carpet to enter the palace safely. Caesar was stunned. This young queen had risked her life just for the chance to speak with him, but he was also impressed. Cleopatra was intelligent, confident, and fearless. She spoke to him in fluent Latin and explained the political crisis in Egypt. She argued that she was the rightful ruler. Caesar listened carefully. Soon, he made a decision that would change history. He decided to support Cleopatra. But this decision would lead to war, and the battle for Egypt was about to begin. Hidden inside a carpet, she entered the royal palace and convinced Caesar to support her claim to the throne of Egypt. But winning Caesar's support did not end the conflict. In fact, it started a dangerous war. Cleopatra's brother, Ptolemy XIII Theos Philopator, and his advisors refused to accept Caesar's decision. Soon, the city of Alexandria became a battlefield. Egyptian forces surrounded the palace where Caesar and Cleopatra were staying. Inside the palace were only a small number of Roman soldiers. Outside were thousands of Egyptian troops. For months, fighting continued in the streets of Alexandria. Ships burned in the harbor. Smoke filled the sky. Some historians believe that during this chaos, part of the famous Library of Alexandria was destroyed by fire. Eventually, Roman reinforcements arrived. With their help, Caesar defeated the Egyptian army. During the final battle, Cleopatra's brother tried to escape by crossing the Nile River. But his boat sank, and he drowned. With his death, Cleopatra finally secured her throne. She was once again the queen of Egypt. After the war, Cleopatra and Julius Caesar became very close. Some people believe they truly loved each other. Others believe their relationship was mainly political. Whatever the truth may be, their partnership changed history. Soon, Cleopatra gave birth to a son. She named him Caesarion, which means Little Caesar. Cleopatra believed that Caesar was the father. Later, Cleopatra traveled to Rome with her son. She stayed in Caesar's luxurious villa, and many Romans were fascinated by the mysterious queen of Egypt. But not everyone in Rome was happy. Many Roman leaders feared Caesar's growing power. Then, in the year 44 BC, something shocking happened. A group of Roman senators assassinated Julius Caesar. He was stabbed many times inside the Roman Senate. His death changed the future of Rome and Cleopatra's life. Cleopatra quickly returned to Egypt with her son. The Roman world soon fell into another civil war. One of the men who rose to power during this time was the Roman general Mark Antony. Antony had been a loyal supporter of Caesar. After defeating Caesar's enemies, Antony became one of the most powerful men in the Roman world. He controlled the eastern territories of Rome, but ruling such a large empire required enormous wealth, and Egypt was one of the richest kingdoms in the world. So Antony invited Cleopatra to meet him. Their meeting took place in the city of Tarsus. Cleopatra understood that this meeting was extremely important. She wanted to impress Antony in every possible way, so she arrived in spectacular fashion. Her ship had purple sails. Silver oars flashed in the sunlight. Perfume filled the air. Cleopatra dressed like a goddess as she approached Antony. The Roman general was completely captivated. Soon, Antony and Cleopatra formed both a political alliance and a romantic relationship. They spent years together. They had children. They celebrated lavishly. But their relationship created powerful enemies in Rome. Another Roman leader named Augustus saw Antony as a threat. Octavian began spreading rumors about Antony. He told the Roman people that Antony had forgotten Rome. He claimed Antony cared more about Cleopatra than about his own country. Slowly, public opinion in Rome turned against them. Eventually, conflict became inevitable. In 31 BC, their fate would be decided in one of the most famous naval battles in history, the Battle of Actium. Hundreds of ships clashed in the sea. For hours, the battle raged. But Antony and Cleopatra's forces began to lose. Suddenly, Cleopatra's ships turned and sailed away from the battle. Antony followed her. Their fleet was left behind. Many of their soldiers surrendered to Octavian. Antony and Cleopatra returned to Egypt, but they knew Octavian would come for them. Soon, his army invaded Egypt. During the final days of the conflict, Antony heard a rumor that Cleopatra had died. Heartbroken and desperate, he stabbed himself with his sword. But the rumor was false. Cleopatra was still alive. When the dying Antony was brought to her, he died in her arms. Now Cleopatra was alone. Octavian captured Alexandria. Although he treated Cleopatra with respect, she knew what awaited her. Octavian planned to take her to Rome and display her as a prisoner in a victory parade. For a proud queen, this humiliation was unbearable. So Cleopatra made one final decision. In the year 30 BC, at the age of 39, Cleopatra ended her life. Some stories say a poisonous snake bit her. Others believe she used poison. The exact truth remains a mystery. With her death, the long history of independent Egyptian rule came to an end. Egypt became part of the Roman Empire. Cleopatra became known as the last pharaoh of Egypt. Even after more than 2,000 years, the world still remembers her story, not only because of her beauty, but because of her intelligence, courage, and determination. She lived in a dangerous world dominated by powerful men, yet she managed to rule a kingdom, influence empires, and leave a legacy that history would never forget. And just like Cleopatra learned languages to connect with the world, today we learn English for the same reason. Every new word we learn opens a new door. Every story we hear helps us understand history and the world a little better. Thank you for listening to this story on SpeakSmart Stories. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves history and learning English. And tell me in the comments, which historical story should we explore next? Until next time, keep learning, keep listening, and keep enjoying the beautiful journey of English.